Hi, my name is Fiona Edgar. I've been a professional astrologer for 10 years, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to receive regular astrology updates. This is a video about Venus retrograde. It starts tomorrow, July 23rd, and it runs all the way through to September 3rd. We do have a shadow period that lasts until October 7th. So what is a retrograde? It's basically an optical illusion. Venus looks like she is moving backwards from our perspective here on Earth. But of course she isn't, but the energetic effects of a retrograde are very real. And today in this video, I'm going to describe the effect that you will feel for your sun sign and your rising sign, and give you some advice on how to cope with the next 40 days and 40 nights that Venus is retrograde. So Venus is the planet of love, pleasure, creativity, your self-worth, your self-esteem. She is also about joy and becoming comfortable in our own skins. Now, in a man's chart, Venus will actually describe the type of woman that he is attracted to. But for all of us, Venus has a connection with our love lives. This is really the main thing that we are going to see during this retrograde, is that we could have some hiccups in terms of relationships, marriages, and possibly exes and people like that from the past. So in the sign of Leo, Venus can be very dramatic. There may be some drama that we have to deal with. You could have issues with possessiveness, someone coming onto your territory. And Venus in Leo is not shy and retiring. It can be very ferocious, like a lioness. So the aspects for this Venus retrograde, there actually is a very special formation, and it is called a finger of God. Venus is making this pattern with Neptune and Pluto. So this is said to be very fated. This aspect pattern, it can bring about situations that are fated that we seem to have no control over. It's deeply connected to problems or issues in the past that we need to fix. And this aspect formation is like the finger of God pointing at something to let us know what it is that we need to fix. And this is symbolized by Venus. Now, something about retrogrades within the personal planets is that they're great for getting us back on the right track. If you experience any problems during this retrograde with love, finances, Venus is also connected to money and so on. Actually, this is the universe's way of trying to get us back onto the right path that is going to lead to some kind of success and healthy relationships and happiness for us. So if we do experience some more negative things during the retrograde, we need to take a look at the people or the situation involved and really truthfully analyze whether it is something that we should be involved with in the first place. So when Venus is retrograde, it's almost like she is taking a little trip through the underworld. And the themes that are connected with her, such as love and money and beauty, they seem to be in short supply. So on a basic level, this means that any relationships, you may have a period of hardship, there could be less romance, there may be some problems from the past that kind of suddenly rear their heads again, but this is an opportunity for us to fix any problems. By the end of the retrograde, things will be as they are supposed to be. And if we use this as a great opportunity, being honest with ourselves, it really can lead to much more happiness on down the line. So you could be feeling like you're not getting enough attention, maybe from your partner. Maybe you're single and you've been looking for a partner. Venus in Leo loves attention. She loves to be adored, but we will not be feeling that side of her while she is retrograde. Now, retrograde planets are more powerful. So it's kind of leading to something that is going to be much better on down the line. The reason they are more powerful is because they go over certain degrees in the zodiac much more slowly, and thus creating more power. It's like when a car revs, when you rev the engine of your car before you suddenly take off. It's similar to that. So it's not to be feared. There may be some drama connected to it or other difficulties, but we should not fear this. It happens pretty frequently. It happens about once every 18 months. And I just think about my parents, and they've been married for so long. They've been through about 35 Venus retrogrades together. So there really is nothing to be feared from this at all. So Venus retrograde is starting on a fixed star, and the fixed star is called Alphard, and it is the water snake, which is in the constellation of Hydra. So this isn't a very pleasant fixed star. It is connected with poisons and toxicity. Now, when the descriptions for these stars were written a very long time ago, life was very different then. I guess being poisoned or bitten by serpents was more of a common thing than we experience today. So let's try and bring it down into a modern interpretation, which would be self-poison. So what is it that you do that is toxic or negative or even poisons your relationships? So are you someone that needs too much attention, which we could see with Venus and Leo? Do you expect far too much from your partner? Or are you in a relationship with someone like that? It can represent some kind of external poison that you will need to deal with in order to keep your relationship flowing smoothly. Now, in particular, this fixed star is connected with the poison and hatred of women. So what are some things that this could be? It could be bitchiness, groups of women directing some kind of venom or poison towards you, or someone that you thought was a female friend or your female boss, and so on. If you're having problems with that already, it is likely to worsen a bit over the retrograde so that you can deal with that. But I will say that it is a very bad idea during Venus retrograde for anyone to gossip or direct poison or smear campaigns towards another person, but in particular a woman, as it is likely to backfire. So stay away from gossips and two-faced people because they may try to attack during this retrograde. So bitchiness, jealousy, and other toxic emotions are likely to be a thing during this retrograde. But Leo is the sign of royalty. So when you have a lot of difficult people trying to bring you down by directly affecting your self-esteem, you should rise above it and not let these people affect the way that you see yourself and your confidence level. So what are some things that we should and shouldn't do over Venus retrograde? I'll start with the don'ts. Don't start a relationship during Venus retrograde if you can help it, because this relationship is likely to be connected with a past life, or it can be with a person from the past, such as an ex. You may hear from them. It's very common to experience this during Venus retrograde. Now, if it didn't work before, it's really unlikely that it's going to work this time, unless both of you have worked on yourselves and have brought about some kind of positive change. So please don't get married during Venus retrograde. The reason is because it is unlikely to last. So you must avoid that as much as you possibly can. Don't make any large purchases during Venus retrograde, especially if they are connected to beauty or they cost a lot of money. Because we have been in Venus shadow period for a couple of weeks, I actually bought a dress that I thought looked totally gorgeous on the hanger, and I didn't try it on. And when I got home and tried it on, it looked like Granny's old curtains. So this is the type of thing. Something can look shiny and beautiful, especially if you buy it online. But then when you get it home, it's going to disappoint you in some way. So don't buy a car or spend a lot of money on a vehicle or a house during Venus retrograde, as you are quite likely to be unhappy with it for one reason or another after the retrograde is done. It's also advised not to change your appearance dramatically during the retrograde. So anything like cosmetic surgery, cutting your hair off, dyeing your hair a different color, or something that affects your appearance that is kind of permanent or long lasting, there's a real chance that you will not like the result. So it's best to wait until October, when you will have a much clearer head for these things and you don't want to make any mistakes. Even something like Botox or fillers, which are so common today, may go wrong during Venus retrograde if it is making some kind of aspect to your chart. So what are some things that you can do during Venus retrograde? Anything that works to improve your self-esteem and your self-worth. If you're unhappy with the way that you look, it is okay to start a healthy eating regime during Venus retrograde. Go on a diet, do some kind of exercise that will lead to a greater sense of happiness for you. Working on any kind of relationship issues, which you kind of may be forced to do during this retrograde. Now, examine your own toxicity when it comes to relationships. We all have that. We all have a toxic side that only comes out in relationships. And actually, an astrologer will be able to see what that side of you is by looking at your birth chart and the aspects and the sign that you have connected to your Venus. So please don't expect too much from your partners over this period, because they may be distracted by something, they may be working away, and romance will be in short supply. So it's up to us to find ways to keep ourselves entertained without your partner, or at least without a lot of love and romance, because Venus is taking a trip through the underworld. She has no time for love and romance. She is focusing on more important things. So ridding your toxins from your body. What can you do to improve your appearance? This is a Venusian thing. And clearing out your diet, becoming more, trying to be as pure as possible during this time, but also for the rest of your life. Venus retrograde is a great time to do that. So what kind of remedies can we use during Venus retrograde? What is a remedy? First of all, a remedy is a solution or a balm that you can put in place to stop yourself or your relationship from being badly affected by Venus retrograde. Remedies are used in Vedic astrology. I'm not a Vedic astrologer, but I do use remedies because I have experience with the occult and with magic. Now, it's really just, it works on an energetic level. Now, what can you do for Venus retrograde? The first thing that you can do is to wear white. Wear white. It is the color of purity, and white is one of the colors of Venus. Of course, you won't be able to do this every day of the retrograde. If you're like me, you probably will be, doing your gardening or cooking, and it's a bad idea for you to wear white. But try and wear it on Fridays, because Friday is ruled by Venus. If you are a pagan like me, you can make offerings to Venus or her equivalent in whatever pantheon that you work with. So this could be Venus, Lakshmi, Aphrodite, Ishtar, or Freya. In particular, make offerings of white flowers like jasmine and roses, perfumes. You can also make honey offerings, or you can offer sweets. Now, the idea is that it is sweetness that you need to have in your life because of Venus retrograde. It may be lacking. I am going to dedicate the whole of Venus retrograde by making offerings to Freya, because Freya is the Venusian goddess in my pantheon, and I just think it is a great time to deeply connect with her. I'm not expecting anything in return by that, but I want to honor her, and astrologically, it is a great time to do so. So what else can you do that acts as a remedy? You can wear an amulet or a talisman of Venus, like the Star of Ishtar. You could also wear diamonds if you're lucky enough to own diamonds, as they are connected with Venus. The other thing that you could do is to wear a pentagram. Why pentagram? Pentagram is really an old ancient symbol. You can see that people like the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Babylonians used it a lot. Now, a complete cycle of Venus, which is the movement that Venus makes over its 8-year period, it creates a pentagram. So perhaps this was why it was a popular symbol in the ancient world. So those are all things that you can do to help. Do let me know if you try something. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about before I get to the signs individually is that Venus is Hesperus, July 23rd to August 12th, and Venus is in her Lucifer phase, August 13th to September 3rd. Now, Venus is, when we say Lucifer, Lucifer is not Satan. It is not connected to any kind of Abrahamic belief system in any way. In fact, Lucifer is the morning star. It's the morning version of Venus, when we can see Venus rising in the morning on the horizon. So she is emerging from the underworld during this period. She is emerging from the darkness. So in Roman mythology, Lucifer is the light bringer, and it simply is connected to Venus. It is personified by a man holding a torch. So during this period, it is likely that our emotions can run away with themselves, and you will be all heart, all emotion, all feeling. You won't have any logic. This can be a time when you are more vulnerable with doing some silly things, such as reconnecting with a toxic ex, falling in love with the first person that pays you attention, or in some cases, some people will be tempted to have an affair. Please don't do that at any time, but in particular during Venus retrograde, as it's likely not to last and it will go really wrong. So be careful not to get into any bad situations, but the kind of symbolism of the light is that we need to follow the light, and everything will be kind of brighter by the end of this period. Now, the other version of Venus, Venus Hesperus, is when Venus is below the horizon. So she's not visible. This is when she is feminine and loving and more introverted. But this is a time when we can experience more issues connected to our self-esteem and insecurities. So Hesperus is the evening star. So I hope that was clear and helpful. Now, let's talk about the signs and the effect that Venus retrograde will have on your sign. The most important part of your chart is your rising sign or your ascendant. Now, that is the sign that was on the eastern horizon at the moment of your birth. So you must know your birth time for this to be accurate. Now, you can go ahead and find out your rising sign. There are loads of free websites on the internet and you can pull up a free chart to see where it is. I want you to watch your rising sign and your sun sign. You might also get something out of your moon sign, so listen to all three of those. So I will start with Leo. Leo, this Venus retrograde is transiting through your first house. And the first house is about your physical body, your appearance, the way that you look. Now, this is also a house of self-esteem and self-worth. So you may find that you become unhappy with your appearance during this retrograde. So what you need to do is to put off, do not color your hair in a dramatically different color. Don't cut it, and don't get any plastic surgery done. But you also will be thinking of ways where you can make an alignment between the identity that you have now and Venus and Leo. So you could experience some very big life changes over this Venus retrograde that actually at the end of it, you're more wealthy, you're confident, your self-esteem is better, but that will come later. Now, in particular, you could have some drama. So the first house, everyone can see that. Now, there may be some issues with women in particular, silly drama, silly gossip. So what you need to do is to rise above that. For Virgo, Venus is going retrograde in your 12th house. So this is about fears, secrets, insecurities. These could all be things that you're considering or even just feeling on an emotional level during the next 40 days. So it is important to recognize that they are only fears. Now, these will be things that maybe are lurking in your subconscious and they come out all of a sudden during this retrograde. So what you need to do is try not to hold yourself back. And where you can make improvements, you should do so. But Virgo is so hard on themselves. So please don't do that thing where you feel inferior or not good enough. And don't expect a lot of things to happen at once when it comes to the positive side. Now, you might need to be careful about secret enemies, because the 12th house is connected with enemies that you don't know about. So what could that be? Women that smile at your face and then talk about you behind your back. So if you do have an experience with someone like that, it is a really good idea to completely reevaluate that friendship or relationship. The 12th house is connected to secrets also. So if you're connected to if you have some secret thing going on with another person, it could be a time when it is revealed, or maybe a person was keeping a secret from you, and during the retrograde, you find out what that is. For Libra, Venus is retrograde in your 11th house. This house is connected to friends, groups, social media, basically people that you choose to hang out with. They're not family connections. Now, you could have to review your expectations from these people. Maybe someone displays a lack of loyalty. Maybe if you're on social media and you're trying to promote yourself, you are not getting the recognition that you deserve. So what you need to do is to replan, reevaluate your connection on social media or within groups, and separate the wheat from the chaff. Get rid of any person that is working negatively against you, or get rid of anything that is stopping you from shining in a very Leo way on social media or within groups of friends. There could be some drama to deal with among your friends, and hopefully that will be resolved by the end. For Scorpio people, Venus is going retrograde in your 10th house. So this can be some issue in work where you feel like you're not being appreciated enough. Perhaps you expected a pay rise, it hasn't happened, or you've been looked over for some kind of promotion, or you just feel like they are not appreciating you enough. This can be a time when you might think about looking for a new job where you will be valued financially, and you will be given more money. You could also be thinking of ways where you could promote yourself or be in the spotlight in terms of your job. Perhaps you work in a very skilled area and you could make some YouTube videos or create a guide for other people that could learn from you. For Sagittarius, Venus goes retrograde in your 9th house. The 9th house is about foreign countries, foreign people. It is also connected with your beliefs, your religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. So you could hear from a foreign person that you connected with in the past. That would be relevant, not to everyone, but for some of you, I'm sure that that will happen. You could also be thinking a lot about travel. Maybe you want to travel and you have a list, but the financial side of things is going to make it difficult. But during the retrograde, you probably will find a solution to that. The 9th house is also about higher knowledge and higher learning. You could start a course or think about starting a course of study, which will actually lead to some really great things by the time the retrograde is over and actually for the next couple of years. Learning, taking a course will really benefit you on a financial level, and also it will help your self-esteem and the way that you feel about yourself. For Capricorn, Venus is going retrograde in your 8th house. The 8th house is a mysterious house connected to sex, connected to death and transformation, and any kind of money or finances that you share with another person, like your partner. This can be a time when there might be some issue with your partner's wealth. So perhaps you have a shared bank account, all of your money goes in there. Maybe your partner has been spending a bit too much. You have some kind of small issue that you have to work through. Maybe you're expecting money from an inheritance or some kind of legal claim. This can be a time when you're waiting to hear about how much money you will actually get. So your sex life can go a bit weird during Venus retrograde. Now, you may have a lack of sex life. Maybe you and your partner are going through some kind of period where it just isn't happening. And that is totally normal. And you shouldn't let it affect your self-esteem. Because, you know, when it comes to movies and films and TV series, they really make us believe that unless you're having sex every night with your partner, that there's something wrong with you. But it's actually really common and totally normal to go through periods that you're not sexually active. Sexual energy is very strong and powerful. And if there is something in your life that you're trying to create, such as a project, a job, or a goal, having too much sex can actually take away the power that you would need to pour into that project. And that is why traditionally men did not have sex if they had a big fight the next day or something else that was important. And there is a good reason for that. So this actually will be a great time for you to heal sorrow from past relationships, because the 8th house is also connected to hidden sorrows. There could also be some power struggle or power imbalance that you have to experience with a partner, but by the end of this period, you should notice a huge improvement. For Aquarius, the retrograde is moving through your 7th house of marriage, of your long-term partner. There can be a real lack of romance and a lack of creativity and joy during this period. Perhaps your partner is distracted. Perhaps they're working hard. You have money issues. All of those things can really affect the romance and joy within a partnership when you feel like you have this weight on your shoulders. Please don't worry. This really will improve by the end of the retrograde. What you both need to do is to be patient with each other. Don't expect too much attention. And don't be dramatic if you're not getting the attention. Try to seek it somewhere else. Now, another possibility for Aquarius is that you can suddenly hear from a partner from the past, an ex, someone that you dated, etc. So you will have to make your mind up whether to respond to that person or not. But remember what I said, if it didn't work the first time, it probably won't work the second time. Venus retrograde makes situations like that unlikely to last. The other possibility is that you may meet a partner that you knew in a past life, because retrograde periods are about past lives and the past in our current lives. So you could meet someone that you feel a very strong pull towards. It may be magnetic, especially when Venus is in its Lucifer period. So do be careful with that. For Pisces, the Venus retrograde is going to be moving through your 6th house. This is the house of your daily schedule, your daily routine, the time that you get up, you go to bed, what time you eat lunch. You may experience some boredom and a lack of joy connected to your daily routines. So maybe you have to kind of shake it up a little bit. So it's also a great time for you to review your health practices. In particular, you want to, if you're prone to kidney infections or any kind of urinary infection, you might notice a flare-up during this Venus retrograde through your 6th house. It's also a time when you should examine the way that you work. So maybe you're someone that does a lot of work in an office or some other kind of system, but you're not getting the recognition that you deserve. Maybe you're doing all of the hard work and someone else is taking the credit. So what you need to do is to learn to stand up for yourself and push yourself more into the spotlight so that you are recognized, which is perfectly fine. So for Aries, the Venus retrograde is moving through your 5th house. This is connected to romance, joy, creativity, abundance, and children. So you could hear from a romantic partner from the past, someone that you flirted with or someone that you dated a couple of times, but it was not serious. Do be careful that this person doesn't interfere or cause any problems with you and your current partner. Now, romance can definitely be lacking during Venus retrograde, in particular for you, and you get kind of bored easily. So what you can do is, if your partner is not available in some way, do some artwork, go and do something really silly, really fun. I promise you that you'll feel a lot better afterwards. Now, you may have some difficulties with your children. One of your children may be unhappy. They could be experiencing some kind of situation in school where they are kind of miserable all the time. And of course, that's going to affect you. But during Venus retrograde, you should be able to find a solution for that. So it's a great time for you to reconnect with any creative abilities that you have. Of course, it could be artwork or music, but creativity comes in many different forms. The way that you dress, it could be creativity with business. It could be something connected to risk taking, which you should only do if you have money to lose. So it could be gambling or crypto, because the 5th house will rule those things. And you should be careful not to blow all of your money on some obscure cryptocurrency that's just going to crash a few months later. But do go out and enjoy yourself, Aries. Get in touch with your inner child. Do something fun. For Taurus people, Venus retrograde is moving through your 4th house. Now, the 4th house is connected to your home, your physical dwelling. It's also about your family that you grew up with and your parents. So the home connection might make it more likely that you want to change your home decor in some way. Maybe you're bored with the colors and the appearance of your home and you just feel like shaking it up a little bit. That's perfectly fine during the retrograde. However, think carefully before you make anything that is really permanent. So think carefully before you knock down walls, put some kind of hideous wallpaper up, which seems good at the time, but then at the end, you realize how disgusting it is. Now, you can put a lot of color in your garden during this time. So people from your family, you could hear from someone from the past. Maybe you're estranged from a family member, in particular, a female. So mother, aunt, sister, sister-in-law, you could hear from someone like that, and you would have a chance to maybe heal that relationship or reconnect. Now, if you're thinking about moving, you probably shouldn't do it during a Venus retrograde. I wouldn't recommend it. But what you can do is certainly have a look at new homes, or start doing some research into a certain area that you would like to move to, and so on. So it's okay to plan, but try to hold off on the big changes. For Gemini, the Venus retrograde is going through your third house. This is your house, as Gemini rules the third. Now, it's connected to siblings, it's connected to your neighborhood. There is a chance to make peace with your siblings here. If there was some dispute or disagreement, maybe you have not heard from them for years, it's quite likely that you might hear from them during this retrograde. So the third house is also about your neighborhood. Maybe you should take a look around and consider whether this neighborhood is good for you. Every neighborhood contains different energies. For example, sometimes you go to a certain place and you feel terrible. Other times, you know, you're in a different location and you feel great. So the reason is because that different parts of the land hold different energies. But also in astrocartography, you have planetary lines that run through your chart. And some are great to live on, others not so much. So it might be worth looking at that and considering whether you're living in the right area. So the third house is actually also connected to being in the spotlight. Maybe you should consider changing your approach to gain more attention if you're trying to make it big on social media. And you can have a look at your practices and what you're doing and the way that you promote yourself to lead to more success later on down the line for you. So finally, for Cancer, this Venus retrograde is moving through your second house. The second house is about money and stuff that you earn. So this could be the classic buyer's regret, in particular for you, Cancer. Don't buy anything that you're not sure about. Try to hold off on making major purchases. So for example, don't buy a new car. Don't blow a lot of money on expensive makeup or perfume or clothes or jewelry if it costs a lot of money, as it's quite likely that there will be some problem with it later that you didn't realize when you were examining it in the store. And so the second house transit, it asks you to be more conservative with your money, but it is a great time to start thinking about ways that you could potentially increase your earnings by pushing yourself into the spotlight more, becoming a leader, becoming a manager, becoming self-employed, and using your creative skills to earn more money. Those are all things that Leo is connected with. So that is my analysis of Venus retrograde. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Please leave me a thumbs up and share if you did like it. If you want to book a reading from me, I'll drop the link below and you can do so from my store online. If you would like to study astrology with me, you can also sign up to become one of my students. It is an astrology mentorship. The details are on my website. So I hope Venus retrograde is fantastic, and thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon.